Everyone knows Vegas casinos make billions off gamblers. But what if I told you they're making billions more by shaping America's gambling laws? This is the secret billion-dollar lobbying machine you were never meant to see. To understand how Las Vegas casinos became powerful enough to influence national laws, we have to start at the very beginning, in the days when the mob ran the Strip. In the 1950s and 1960s, Las Vegas wasn't a corporate playground. It was a gangster's dreamland. The city's most famous resorts, the Flamingo, the Sands, the Desert Inn, were bankrolled or directly controlled by organized crime families out of Chicago, Kansas City, and New York. Frank "Lefty" Rosenthal ran the Stardust. Anthony Spilatro enforced for the Chicago outfit. Deals were made in smoky back rooms. Envelopes of cash were slipped under tables, and skimmed profits were flown out of Nevada on private planes. This wasn't a conspiracy theory. It's well documented in FBI files, court cases, and the Nevada Gaming Control Board's own history. Then, in the late 1960s and 1970s, everything changed. Nevada passed a series of laws allowing publicly traded corporations to own casinos. The idea was to bring in legitimate capital and push out organized crime. Enter billionaire Howard Hughes, the reclusive aviation tycoon. Between 1967 and 1970, Hughes spent more than $300 million buying up Vegas properties like the Desert Inn, the Sands, the Landmark, and the Frontier. His acquisitions signaled to Wall Street that Las Vegas was open for legitimate investment. By the end of the 1970s, corporate giants like Hilton and later MGM were buying casinos outright. The mob's overt control began to fade as boardrooms and shareholders took over. But something else happened in that transition. When mobsters lost their grip, the influence game didn't go away. It just changed shape. Instead of bribes and threats, there were policy papers and campaign contributions. Instead of street muscle, there were K Street lobbyists in Washington, D.C. By the 1990s, casino companies were some of the biggest spenders in Nevada's political races and were beginning to ramp up lobbying at the federal level, too. According to a long-term analysis published in 2023, the gambling industry spent about $817 million in lobbying from 1998 to 2020 in the U.S. alone. This wasn't just a Nevada phenomenon anymore, it was national. This is the foundation of the billion-dollar lobbying machine. The mob may have built the casinos, but the corporations built the political power. In the next part, we'll pull back the curtain on how today's casino giants, from Caesars to MGM, use their money to shape the rules you gamble under long before you step into the casino.
Before we move on, if you enjoy these types of videos, please consider supporting the channel by giving it a like and subscribing. I try my best to take a unique angle on all things Vegas as someone who's lived and worked here for years. The mission of this channel is to bring back old Vegas, and although I can only play a small part as a small creator, I can at the very least help keep the conversation moving about how awesome Vegas used to be and how we can bring it back by making videos like this that expose the dark underbelly of how Sin City really operates. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please support the channel. Hopefully we can hit 10K subscribers soon. Thanks again for your support.
Part 2. Meet the billion-dollar lobbying machine. Las Vegas today isn't just a tourist destination, it's a political powerhouse. Behind the neon lights and free cocktails is an industry that's learned how to play the most profitable game of all, influencing the law. At the center of it all is the American Gaming Association, or AGA, the trade group representing the biggest casino operators in the country. Think of it as a kind of union for billion-dollar corporations like MGM Resorts, Caesars Entertainment, Wynn Resorts, and Las Vegas Sands. Its job? To lobby lawmakers, influence regulations, and make sure the rules of the game tilt in favor of its members. Let's look at the numbers. according to lobbying disclosures compiled by Open Secrets and other watchdogs. Caesars Entertainment spent almost $3.8 million lobbying Congress in a single year. MGM Resorts International regularly spends over $1 million a year in D.C. In 2024 alone, they disclosed more than $210,000 in just one quarter, focusing on hotel fees, visa policies, and gaming regulations. And these numbers don't even include political action committee donations, state-level lobbying, or quiet relationship building at fundraising dinners. From 1998 to 2020, the U.S. gambling industry as a whole spent an estimated $817 million lobbying at the federal level. To put that in context, that's more than double what the U.S. coal industry spent in the same time frame. The mob used to slip envelopes of cash under tables. Today, Vegas operators slip amendments into bills and fund campaign war chests. Lobbyists draft talking points, propose language for regulations, and coordinate with state governments when new casinos or sports betting markets open. They're not doing anything illegal. This is all above board, but the effect is the same. A small number of powerful players get to set the rules of the game before the public even knows there's a game being played. What do they actually lobby for? A few examples. Sports betting expansion. After the Supreme Court overturned the federal ban in 2018, Vegas operators rushed to influence how new state markets opened. Online gambling. Some companies pushed to legalize it nationwide under strict conditions they control, while others lobby to slow it down to protect their physical resorts. Visa and travel programs. MGM and others actively lobby for easier entry for high-rolling tourists from Asia and Europe. Taxes and fees. From hotel resort fees to state gaming taxes, these companies constantly push to lower their tax burden and maintain lucrative fee structures. When you see headlines like "Sports betting now legal in X state," you're not just seeing random policy changes, you're seeing the fingerprints of a billion-dollar lobbying machine shaping the future of gambling long before you place your first bet. Now that we've met the machine and seen how big the money really is, let's look at exactly how they shape the game, the specific tactics and battles where Vegas's lobbying muscle shows its power.
Part 3. How they shape the game. If Part 2 showed us the size of the machine, Part 3 shows us its gears. How exactly do Las Vegas casinos bend the rules of gambling to their will? They don't just buy influence, they engineer the playing field itself. Vegas lobbying works on a few reliable plays. They use direct lobbying, one-on-one meetings with lawmakers and regulators. They deploy political action committees, PACs, to funnel campaign money to key decision makers. They fund research and think tank studies that support their positions. And they orchestrate PR campaigns to sway public opinion before a vote ever happens. Online gambling is one of the clearest examples of how these tactics work. After 2011, when the U.S. Department of Justice loosened its interpretation of online betting laws, states began experimenting with legal online poker and casino games. But the industry split. MGM Resorts and Caesars began lobbying to legalize online gambling under strict regulations, knowing they already had the money, tech, and licenses to dominate it. Las Vegas Sands, under Sheldon Adelson, lobbied hard to ban online gambling entirely. Adelson even bankrolled the Restoration of America's Wire Act, RAWA, a bill that would have effectively outlawed online betting nationwide. At its peak, Adelson reportedly poured tens of millions of dollars into campaigns and lobbying efforts to stop online gambling, not for moral reasons, but to protect his brick-and-mortar empire. When the Supreme Court overturned PASPA, the federal sports betting ban in 2018, Vegas operators were ready. They had already written model legislation for states considering sports betting. They offered partnerships and turnkey solutions for regulators. They secured market access deals that locked out smaller competitors. Result? By 2024, over 30 states had legalized sports betting, but the biggest contracts and partnerships went to a handful of major Vegas-linked companies. Lobbying doesn't always make headlines, but it's often about boring line items that add up to billions. In Nevada, casinos pushed back on higher state gaming taxes, saving themselves hundreds of millions. At the federal level, they lobby for tax breaks on capital improvements to their resorts, writing off luxury remodels as business expenses. Even the much-hated resort fees, which bring in billions, are protected by heavy lobbying against consumer protection crackdowns. Beyond D.C., these fights happen in every state considering new gambling markets. Casino operators send in lobbying teams, hire local law firms, and sometimes even back ballot initiatives. In Florida, for example, major gaming operators and Native American tribes spent over $100 million combined on ballot measures and lobbying in 2022 alone to shape who gets to run sports betting in the state. This influence doesn't just come from money, it comes from access. Executives invite lawmakers to luxury suites at major events, sponsor conferences, and host fact-finding trips to Vegas. They frame their asks as economic development, jobs, tourism, tax revenue, making it politically difficult to oppose them. By the time a new gambling law passes, it's already been drafted, debated, and dissected by these industry players. In effect, the billion-dollar lobbying machine writes the rules of gambling before anyone else even knows the game is started. In Part 4, we're going to follow the money even deeper, looking at how PAC donations, campaign contributions, and soft influence make sure lawmakers stay on Vegas's side.
Part 4. Following the money, campaign cash, and influence. If lobbying is the engine, then campaign cash is the fuel. Las Vegas casinos don't just influence laws with ideas, they grease the wheels with massive political spending. Let's follow the money trail. Almost every major casino operator maintains dedicated political action committees, PACs, to make direct donations. Industry coalitions like the American Gaming Association, AGA, to coordinate lobbying strategy. Soft money channels like sponsorships, private fundraisers, and super PACs to influence campaigns indirectly. This isn't a few $100,000 here and there. We're talking tens of millions every election cycle. No one embodied this better than Sheldon Adelson, founder of Las Vegas Sands. In 2012 alone, Adelson spent $150 million backing Republican candidates and super PACs, making him the single biggest donor of that election. His stated goal? Not just taxes or Israel policy, but also protecting his casino empire from online gambling competition. Even after his death in 2021, Las Vegas Sands continues to spend millions lobbying Congress and state legislatures on gaming issues. It's not just one side of the aisle. MGM Resorts gave money to both Democratic and Republican leadership PACs to ensure a seat at the table. Caesars Entertainment does the same. This bipartisan approach means no matter who's in power, Vegas interests get heard. The AGA acts as a megaphone for the entire industry. According to Open Secrets, the AGA spent over $4 million annually on federal lobbying in the last few years. They also issue model legislation to state governments, bills practically written by the industry itself. Their policy wins include sports betting legalization and blocking restrictive advertising rules on casino promotions. At the state level, money often flows in even bigger waves. In California in 2022, two competing sports betting ballot measures saw over $450 million spent, making it the most expensive ballot fight in U.S. history. Casino companies, Native American tribes, and online betting firms all poured cash into TV ads, lobbying, and ground campaigns to secure control over the market. It's not just about cutting checks. Influence comes from hosting private events for lawmakers at luxury suites during the Super Bowl or major fights, sponsoring policy conferences in Vegas, billed as educational trips where legislators are wined and dined, employing armies of lobbyists in D.C. and state capitals who often used to be staffers or regulators themselves. This money creates a feedback loop. Casinos win favorable laws, they earn more profits, they donate more to politicians, the laws tilt even more in their favor. It's a self-reinforcing cycle. When you see a new gambling bill pop up in your state, chances are the framework for that law has already been shaped by this money and influence. The billion-dollar lobbying machine isn't just in Washington, it's in every state house where gambling is on the table. Next, we'll look at the real-world consequences of this power, how it shapes who wins, who loses,
and why Vegas casinos might be making more off the rules than off the roulette wheel.
Part 5. The Real-World Consequences. Winners and Losers. We've seen how Vegas casinos built a billion-dollar lobbying machine. But what does that mean for you, the gambler, or for communities across the country? Let's break down the real-world consequences, the winners and the losers. Winner number 1. Big Vegas operators. The most obvious winners are the major corporations themselves. By shaping the laws, they ensure that whenever a new gambling market opens, whether it's sports betting in a new state or online poker, they're first in line. They lock in rules that favor mega operators over newcomers or small businesses. Result? A handful of giant companies now dominate the U.S. gambling landscape, much like big tech dominates social media. Winner number 2. State governments. Short term. States are eager to cash in. Legalized gambling brings tax revenue, licensing fees, and new jobs, all of which look great in a press release. For example, New Jersey's sports betting market generated over $1 billion in revenue in 2023 alone, bringing in millions in taxes for the state. But while states win big up front, they can also become dependent on gambling revenue, making them more likely to keep favorable laws in place. Loser number 1. Small competitors and innovation. When the rules are written by industry giants, smaller operators and startups get squeezed out. High licensing fees and strict regulations sound like consumer protection, but they also price out small competitors. In the early days of online poker, hundreds of sites competed. Now, thanks to regulations shaped by big operators, just a few brands dominate nearly every state market. Loser number 2. Consumers. The average gambler often pays the price. With less competition, casinos can keep odds tighter and fees higher. Those hated resort fees and surcharges, they're easier to maintain when industry lobbyists beat back consumer protection bills. Sports bettors also face worse odds in regulated markets compared to the old gray market days because corporate operators know they're protected by law. Loser number 3. Democracy itself. Perhaps the biggest consequence is invisible. Policy captured by money. When industries write their own laws, it undermines public trust. In some cases, ballot measures are crafted and financed entirely by corporate interests, leaving voters to choose between two options, both written by industry lawyers. The California sports betting ballot fight in 2022, $450 million spent, showed how far the arms race has gone. Because Vegas operators set the template, other states often copy their rules. Resort-style casinos, high fees, and limited licenses mirror the Vegas model. Even online platforms often require partnerships with existing casinos, effectively giving big operators veto power over who enters a market. The gambling industry is only growing. By 2024, U.S. commercial gaming revenue hit $66.5 billion, a record high. As more states legalize new forms of gambling, the influence of Vegas's lobbying machine will only increase unless someone shines a light on it. So when you hear about a new casino opening, a new sports betting app launching, or a new online poker market, remember, the odds weren't just calculated at the table. They were calculated in the halls of power months or years earlier. And that brings us to our conclusion. Why exposing Vegas's billion-dollar lobbying machine matters, and what it says about the future of gambling in America.
So there it is, the side of Las Vegas casinos you were never meant to see. Not the flashing lights or the jackpots, but the billion-dollar lobbying machine shaping America's gambling laws behind closed doors. We started with a simple question. How do Vegas casinos make billions off the law itself? We uncovered the tactics: lobbying, PACs, PR campaigns. We followed the money, tens or even hundreds of millions flowing into campaigns and ballot measures. And we saw the impact: a gambling landscape designed to favor a handful of giant operators over everyone else.
This isn't just about Vegas. It's about democracy, markets, and the future of entertainment. When one industry can write the rules of its own game, it tilts the odds against consumers, competitors, and voters alike. The next time you see a headline about a new casino opening or a new sports betting app launching, ask yourself, who wrote the laws that made this possible? Who benefits? And who's left out? This has been your inside look at exposing Vegas's billion-dollar lobbying machine. If you found this eye-opening, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who still thinks Vegas is just about gambling tables and neon lights. The real action, as we've just seen, is happening far away from the casino floor. Thanks for watching.